Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something vital, absolutely vital for anyone who's trying to, bridge that gap between just knowing English words and actually speaking English fluently.
Mm.
If you're learning English, or maybe you just want to fine-tune your conversational skills, make them sound more natural, more authoritative, you know the challenge. It's not usually the vocabulary itself, is it? It's the structure.
Exactly. It's how you link ideas,
Hmm.
how you make it flow, naturally, fluidly, and, let's face it, quickly.
Right. So our source material for this deep dive is pretty fascinating. We've got excerpts from some advanced English teaching resources, stuff designed specifically to be like immediate fluency accelerator.
Yeah, I unpack stuff.
Totally. And we've pulled out 4 key phrases, just 4, but they're not just phrases, they're more like, well, conversational frameworks, right? They unlock these complex communication situations almost instantly.
That's a good way to put it, frameworks.
So our mission today, unpack these frameworks. We're going to cover everything from asking for directions politely, the right way,
Mm-hmm.
to expressing that sort of unwavering commitment, defining those impossible situations we all face sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
and even how to professionally ask for a break, which is, essential. The idea is not just memorizing. We want to master the architecture behind these phrases.
And that's what's so interesting here. We're focusing on what you called structural pillars.
Yeah.
These aren't just, random vocabulary words you could swap in and out.
Right.
When you master these specific phrases, you're actually acquiring entire conversational architectures.
Yeah.
They really dictate the flow, the tone, even the complexity of what you're saying.
So they're like shortcuts, linguistic accelerator.
Linguistic accelerators, exactly. They let you communicate some pretty complex ideas, things like foresight or deep commitment, but with incredible conciseness. And that makes you sound, well, immediately more like a native speaker, and maybe more importantly, just more confident.
I love that. Fluency accelerators. Okay, so think of this as getting the blueprints, the expert blueprints, for 4 different kinds of conversational machinery. We're going to jump right into the nuts and bolts.
Let's do it.
Let's start with maybe the most basic survival language anywhere in the world. Asking for help finding your way.
Okay.
So the first structural phrase we pulled from the source material is, can you tell me how to get to somewhere? Now, it looks simple on the surface.
Deceptively simple.
Yeah, but it's doing some serious heavy lifting, isn't it?
It really is. And, we noticed the source had a tiny typo, ho, instead of how, which happens.
Sure.
But the key function is crystal clear. This structure, it's fundamentally about asking for the method, the path, not just like the static location on a map.
Okay. So it's the difference between asking, where is the library, which is just a point,
Right, a dot on the map.
versus how do I get to the library, which
Yeah.
is asking for the instructions, the process.
Exactly. You're asking for the journey, not just the destination.
Uh,
Hashtagged 1.1, deconstructing the polite request.
yeah. Okay, let's break that down, starting with politeness, because that's often a hurdle for learners, right? Getting the tone right.
Definitely.
This structure kicks off with, can you tell me? Why is that opening so critical compared to just, barking out, where's the bank?
Well, it all comes down to the modal verb.
Yeah.
In English, we use these little helper verbs, can, could, would, to sort of cushion requests
Yeah.
and signal possibility or permission or necessity, but gently.
Right.
If you just say, tell me where the bank is, it can sound really abrupt, maybe even rude, depending on the context.
Yeah, a bit demanding.
But using a modal verb, can you tell me, instantly makes it polite. Professional, even.
Okay. And what if you need to be even more polite, like in a really formal setting or talking to someone quite senior?
Then you shift gears slightly. You use the past forms, like, could you tell me, or maybe even, would you mind telling me? It's sort of counterintuitive, but using the past tense makes the request feel more tentative, less demanding.
So could feel softer than can.
Exactly. Can is sort of asking about their ability. Are you able to tell me? Could, more hypothetical, would it be possible for you to tell me? It softens the demand.
Yeah.
It's a subtle shift, but it shows real social awareness in English.
Gotcha. And avoid things like, must you tell me? Right. That sounds wrong.
Oh, definitely wrong.
Yeah.
That sounds like you're challenging them, not asking politely. Big difference.
Okay, so it's like a linguistic cushion, that can you tell me? But you mentioned earlier that the real power isn't just the polite opening, it's what comes next, the embedded question.
Yes, the embedded question. This is where you really see fluency in action. You're taking a direct question like, how do I get to the bank? And you're weaving it smoothly into that polite frame.
So it becomes, can you tell me how to get to the bank?
Precisely.
Embedded question. That sounds a bit technical. Can you give us like a simple analogy? Why does using that structure make someone sound less like they're reading from a textbook?
Okay, think of it like this. A direct question. Where's the bank?
Uh,
It's like a light switch. On or off.
mm.
Simple. An embedded question. Can you tell me how to get to the bank? Is more like a dimmer switch. It allows for more nuance, a smoother transition.
Ah, okay.
Learners often just string together direct questions, right? Where is the bank? Is it far? Is there a bus? It can sound a bit jerky, maybe even aggressive without meaning to.
Yeah, I can see that.
But mastering this embedded structure,
Yeah.
can you tell me? Plus the indirect question part shows you can request information gracefully. You're using a full, cohesive sentence, not just firing off questions.
Okay, that makes sense. So when we use this for actual physical directions, like, can you tell me how to get to the nearest subway or, how to get to the main office on the 10th floor, we're basically setting the stage for a much better answer, aren't we?
You really are. You're inviting a fuller, richer response. You're asking for the whole path landmarks, maybe distance that turns you need to take.
Right.
You've framed the expectation clearly. You're not just asking if they know where it is. You're asking them to actively share their knowledge, to instruct you on how to actually arrive.
It's a request for guidance, not just information.
Exactly. Now, here's where this phrase gets really versatile, why it's so high utility.
Really?
We can stretch it way beyond just physical maps
Okay.
because it asks for the how, the method. It's incredibly valuable for asking about processes, figurative directions, if you like.
Ah, okay. That's a big leap for a learner, moving from concrete places to abstract processes. Let's get into that. So if I'm starting a new project at work, I don't just need the end goal.
You need the roadmap.
Exactly. So I could ask a colleague.
You could absolutely ask, can you tell me how to get to the next level of the project? You're asking for the steps, the methodology, maybe the critical path needed. It applies everywhere.
Okay, give us a few more examples, like different contexts for these figurative directions.
Sure. Think about navigating bureaucracy. Instead of just feeling lost, you could ask someone, can you tell me how to get to the point where my application is fully approved?
Ah, asking for the process, the sequence.
Exactly. The internal steps, who needs to sign off, what departments are involved,
Mm.
or in a technical situation, troubleshooting.
Right.
Instead of just saying, it's broken,
Right.
you could ask, can you tell me how to get to the root cause of this software error? You're asking for the diagnostic steps, the procedure to find the problem.
I could see this being so useful for a student too, like facing really complex material instead of just saying, I don't get it.
Which isn't very helpful.
No. They could ask the professor, can you tell me how to get to the point where I can confidently analyze this historical event? They're asking for the learning path.
Right, the steps, the resources, maybe even a rough timeline for getting there. And that kind of question, it shows real metacognitive awareness thinking about how you learn.
So the learner's edge, as you put it, is clear. This phrase is way better than just where is X.
Much more valuable. It requests instruction. It invites that detailed step-by-step answer. It shows you're not just interested in the destination, but you're committed to understanding the process to reach it.
And connecting this back to communication skills generally, using this more sophisticated structure, it also shows a kind of emotional intelligence, doesn't it? Respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In any setting, professional or casual, phrasing your request like this gently, comprehensively, it shows you value the other person's time and expertise. You're acknowledging you want to follow their suggested path.
Whether that path leads to the actual bank or, to career advancement.
He shifts the whole dynamic. It's not just you asking a question. It becomes more like a collaborative effort to find the way forward.
Wow. Okay, so it's such a simple phrase, but it unlocks politeness, efficiency, respect, all sorts of things. Okay, so now we know how to ask for the path. Let's talk about expressing absolute, unwavering determination to reach that destination. This brings us to the language of concession.
Intention.
Our second high-utility phrase is just 4 simple words, but wow, they pack a punch structurally and emotionally, even if it rains. Hashtag 2.1, defining concession and condition.
Even if. It's a fantastic tool. Really superb for expressing fixed plans or just sheer resolve. Its main job is to introduce a condition, usually something potential, maybe negative, maybe difficult,
Yeah.
that absolutely will not change the outcome stated in the main part of the sentence. It signals commitment, pure and simple, regardless of obstacles or uncertainties.
Okay, so if the main part is the marathon will proceed, adding even if it rains means The rain is possible. We know it's possible, but it doesn't matter. The marathon is happening.
Exactly. The commitment is ironclad. Grammatically speaking, even if brings in a subordinate clause, and that clause expresses a condition that's hypothetical or in the future.
Right.
Crucially, it deals with uncertainty, a barrier that might happen but hasn't yet.
So it's about looking ahead, anticipating a problem, and basically saying, yeah, so what?
Pretty much, it's foresight and a preemptive dismissal of that obstacle's power.
Okay, this makes it super important to contrast it with a phrase that sounds similar and often confuses learners, even though we really need to nail this difference.
You're absolutely right. Getting this distinction down is paramount. Even though deals with facts, things that are already true now or were true in the past, it expresses a contrast against a known reality.
Okay, give me an example.
I finished the marathon, even though it was pouring rain yesterday. The rain isn't hypothetical. It's a fact. It happened. We know it was raining.
Got it. So even though facts, reality, whereas even if...
Deals with possibilities,
Yeah.
hypotheticals, things in the future,
Yeah.
like I will run the marathon tomorrow, even if the forecast predicts a storm.
The storm is it's just a possibility at this point.
Exactly. It's hypothetical, future-oriented. Nailing that difference, the temporal and factual distinction.
Yeah.
Even though for facts, even if for possibilities, that's a massive leap in sounding precise when you speak.
Can we do a quick pair just to
Yeah.
cement it?
Sure. Factual. I still love that movie, even though the critics hated it. We know for a fact the critics hated it.
Right.
Hypothetical. I will watch that sequel, even if the critics hate it. We don't know their opinion yet. It's a potential future event.
Okay, that clarity is huge. It tells the listener immediately if we're dealing with a current problem or just anticipating a potential risk down the road.
Removes all the ambiguity. Hashtag tag 2.2 high-stakes scenarios.
So when we use even if in like high stakes situations, it adds this real weight, this sense of purpose and commitment. Think about managing expectations in a complex project at work.
Oh, definitely. You might need to tell a supplier, look, we are finalizing this contract on Friday at 5 p.m. sharp, even if the legal team hasn't given the final sign-off yet.
Whoa, that's laying down the law.
It is. That statement tells everyone involved the deadline is firm, it's non-negotiable, it signals you've already thought about the potential delay of the legal sign-off, and you've decided it's not going to derail the core schedule.
And it's super powerful for personal goals too, right? Expressing that grit, that determination.
Absolutely. When you're maybe facing burnout, pushing through something tough, you might tell yourself, okay, I will launch this deep dive next week, even if I have to cancel all my weekend plans to get the quality right.
Yeah.
That even if becomes like a personal mantra, a rallying cry. It highlights that you've seen the potential pain point, the sacrifice, and you've chosen to override it with your commitment. It adds serious emotional weight. Conviction. Hashtag 2.3. Practical application for learners.
Okay, for someone learning this, practicing the structure is key because this even if clause, it can move around in the sentence, right? Which is
Yeah.
something fluent speakers do all the time.
Yes, that flexibility is really important. It's a sign of fluency. You could say, we're going to the presentation, even if the speaker is dull. Here, the main emphasis is just on the action. We're going.
Okay.
But you can flip it, put the clause first. Even if the speaker is dull, we're going to the presentation.
Huh. Does that change the feeling?
It subtly shifts the emphasis. Now, the condition, the potential dullness, is highlighted first. It makes the commitment feel a bit stronger, maybe more defiant even. You're acknowledging the obstacle right up front before declaring your intention to overcome it.
So putting the even if first, is it just for drama or is there a reason it feels stronger?
It's not just drama. It's a rhetorical strategy. When you place the condition first, you create a little moment of tension, of anticipation. You introduce the problem, let the listener really feel the obstacle before you resolve it with your main action. It gives the condition more weight and makes the decision feel more determined.
I actually had a situation like this recently. I was running this critical analysis and my main data source just vanished. Like a totally unexpected tech failure.
Oh, wow. Panic stations.
Total panic. But I remember telling my team, look, I am delivering the full report by the deadline, even if I have to manually recreate every single data point from scratch using secondary sources.
Right.
And that even if felt crucial. It wasn't just saying I was determined. It felt like I was heading off any potential excuses right from the start.
And that's exactly the power of it. By using that structure, you communicated two things at once. First, how serious the problem was, and second, your absolute resolve to find a way around it. This phrase really helps learners express complex ideas like causality and foresight. It lets you say, effectively, yeah, I see the barrier, I've considered it, and I've decided it doesn't have power over my ultimate goal. That kind of foresight is priceless in planning, negotiation, you name it.
Excellent. Okay, so from ironclad commitment, let's pivot to unavoidable complication.
Yeah.
Our third key phrase takes us right into the thick of difficult, sometimes kind of tragic choices.
Yeah.
The third phrase we're unpacking is a super concise way to sum up a whole world of managerial, ethical, or just personal pain. A no-win situation.
Hashtag tag 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 3.1, decoding the idiom.
Right, and let's decode the structure first, especially how it often starts. The source material had Oni no-win situation. That's actually a perfect reflection of how we say it, isn't it? It often starts with an article like a or the or an interjection.
Oh man, it's a no-win situation.
Exactly. Or just, well, that's a no-win situation. Okay, so the definition is pretty stark. A no-win situation is a dilemma where basically all your options lead to failure or loss or some kind of significant negative outcome.
You're guaranteed a bad result. There's simply no good path, no optimal choice available. You're stuck.
It helps to know the context, right? Where does this phrase come from?
Well, it's got deep roots in things like game theory, military strategy.
Hmm.
Think of the classic catch-22 idea.
Right, the paradoxical situation where you can't win because of contradictory rules.
Exactly, that kind of impossible loop.
But military strategy and game theory, that sounds pretty academic. How do we make this concept relatable for someone facing, just an everyday tough choice?
We bring it down to the trade-off,
Yeah.
the unavoidable, painful trade-off. Think about a parent. They need to enforce a safety rule for their kid.
Okay.
Enforcing it will cause a massive meltdown, a tantrum, which is exhausting and awful.
Yeah.
But not enforcing it means risking the child's safety, which is obviously way worse.
Oh, yeah. That's tough.
They're choosing between two definitely negative outcomes. That's a fundamentally relatable, everyday no-win scenario.
Okay, that really clarifies the idea of loss here. It doesn't necessarily mean total disaster, like everything blows up.
Not always, no.
It means you're guaranteed to fail in achieving the best possible outcome, the outcome you actually want. You might survive the choice you make, but you won't actually succeed in the way you hoped. You're basically just picking the least bad option.
Choosing the least damaging path, exactly. Not the best one, because there isn't one. And that ability to differentiate between, say, simple failure and catastrophic failure is why this phrase is so useful in professional analysis.
How so?
It helps you categorize the problem instantly. You realize, okay, this isn't a problem I can solve in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
You stop looking for a magic bullet solution and start looking for mitigation strategies instead. How do we minimize the damage? Hashtag tag tag 3.2 everyday and professional dilemmas.
Okay, let's apply this directly to the workplace. Managers must face this kind of thing all the time.
Constantly. Take a classic example. Product lifecycle management. Maybe a company has a warehouse full of aging inventory.
Okay.
The manager faces a no-win situation. Option A, liquidate the stock now, take a huge loss, which tanks the quarterly profits. Option B, hold on to it, hope it sells later, but risk it becoming totally obsolete and pay storage costs in the meantime.
Right. Both options lead to financial loss, just in different ways.
Exactly. Guaranteed loss either way. Or think ethically. Maybe a professional discovers some serious misconduct at their company.
Oof, yeah.
Reporting it fulfills their ethical duty, great, but it almost certainly destroys their relationship with their boss, maybe even torpedoes their career at that company. Option B, don't report it. Saves their career, maybe. But compromises their integrity, potentially risks a public harm if the misconduct continues.
That's a brutal choice.
It's the unavoidable trade-off again. And using the phrase no-win situation is powerful because it immediately signals the gravity of it. It tells your listener, hey, I recognize how complex and impossible this choice is. It distinguishes it from just, a difficult decision. This is different.
Okay. To help learners get a better handle on it, are there other idioms that sound similar but mean slightly different things? Things people might confuse it with?
Yeah, the most common one is probably between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
That means you're stuck between two equally unpleasant choices, sure. But it doesn't necessarily imply that both choices lead to guaranteed failure. They might just both be really uncomfortable or difficult.
Ah, okay. So no win specifically implies guaranteed failure on some important level.
Exactly. Guaranteed failure to achieve the desired outcome, whichever path you take. Catch-22 is related too, but that refers specifically to that paradoxical loop caused by contradictory rules or logic. For general use, no-win situation is probably the most versatile and efficient way to communicate that sense of the guaranteed negative outcome. Hashtag tag 3.3, communicating complexity with conciseness.
And that efficiency, that conciseness is so important for fluency, isn't it? This one short phrase can replace, what, like 3 or 4 sentences of complicated explanation, especially if English isn't your first language?
Oh, it's a massive communication shortcut.
Yeah.
Huge. Instead of spending precious minutes trying to explain, well, you see, if I approve this loan, we risk the client defaulting, which is bad.
Right.
But if I decline this loan, we lose a major high-volume client, which is also bad.
Yeah, that takes forever.
Right. You just state clearly, look, we're facing a no-win situation on this loan decision. Boom. Done. Essential for fast, clear communication, especially in high-pressure environments where time really is money.
And when you use that phrase, you're kind of inviting everyone else to share that understanding of the problems type, right? It's not just hard, it's fundamentally flawed, guaranteeing negative fallout no matter what.
Yes. That shared understanding is half the battle. Everyone's on the same page about the nature of the challenge.
So we should really frame this phrase as more than just an idiom. It's like an advanced critical thinking tool.
I think so. It lets the speaker instantly categorize a complex problem. Okay, this isn't a solvable puzzle. It's a dilemma with unavoidable trade-offs. And that immediately shifts the conversation. You move past just defining how difficult it is, and you move straight into analyzing mitigation strategies. How do we choose the least detrimental option?
Acknowledges the complexity, maybe even the tragedy of it, and moves you straight towards strategy.
Exactly.
Okay, a really necessary linguistic tool. But speaking of strategy, sometimes the best strategy is knowing when to step back, when to recharge, which leads us perfectly to our final phrase.
Right. Taking a break.
Our final phrase is absolutely crucial for just navigating modern work life, really. It covers the necessity of rest, recovery, have time off. Hashtag 4.1, defining and applying time off.
Yeah, time off. Pretty straightforward definition. It's a period where you're officially, authorized to be absent from your regular duties, usually work, sometimes school.
Okay.
It's the umbrella term, right?
Yeah.
Covers vacation, sick leave, parental leave, personal days, all that stuff. The key thing that differentiates it is that it usually involves some kind of arrangement or permission against a regular, mandatory schedule.
Okay. And the structure here, the verb usage, seems really important for learners to get right. The phrase we're looking at is have time off. What does the have part signify?
So have time off usually refers to the status of being on leave, or more often it refers to possessing the allowance or entitlement to take leave.
Ah, okay. Like, I have 3 weeks of time off accrued this year. It means I'm eligible for it.
Exactly. It speaks to your eligibility, the amount you have banked, so to speak. And that eligibility is subtly different from the action verb, to take time off. If you're actually initiating the process using the leave, you say, I need to take time off next Tuesday for an appointment.
Okay, so have is about possession or status.
Okay.
Take is the action of using it.
Precisely. Mastering that difference, have versus take, is a really clear sign of fluency, especially when you're dealing with HR or your manager about leave.
And in the workplace, this phrase time off is almost always modified, isn't it? We talk about different types of time off.
Oh, absolutely. You need that specificity. The most common modifiers are things like paid time off, PTO, which is obviously what everyone wants.
It's gold standard.
Right. You get paid while you're away. Versus unpaid time off, which you might have to take if you've used up all your paid leave. And then we use specific time markers too, like a day off, meaning one specific 24-hour period or time off for the holidays. Using these specific modifiers correctly shows you really understand the employment context, the different categories of leave. Hashtag 4.2, context of use for learners. Now, for English learners, especially those entering or already in the workforce, knowing how to use this phrase correctly isn't just about sounding good. It's essential for practical, sometimes even legal reasons.
You mean for formal requests?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clarity in a formal request is absolutely non-negotiable. If you're emailing your supervisor or HR, ambiguity is your enemy. It can cause real problems.
So you need to be precise. Like, I would like to formally request time off from June 15th to the 22nd for a family event. Something clear like that.
Perfect. That structure signals it's a professional transaction and needs to be processed, approved, logged, no confusion.
And then there's the informal side, right? Just talking socially.
Yeah, absolutely. It's used all the time just to build rapport, chat about plans. Hey, are you having time off soon? Or did you take much time off over the summer? It's just the standard, natural way to ask about people's breaks.
But it's important you mentioned to distinguish time off from just general free time, right?
Crucial distinction. Time off specifically implies an absence from a scheduled, usually mandatory obligation like work or school.
So if I say I had free time over the weekend, that's just my normal leisure time.
Right. But if you say you had time off on Monday, that clearly means you were supposed to be at work, but you arranged and got permission to be absent. That difference is key for learners to grasp. Hashtag 4.3, the value of knowing the phrase.
Okay, so why is this phrase so valuable? Beyond just asking for a holiday.
Well, it's critical vocabulary for just navigating the basics of employment, isn't it? Dealing with HR, understanding your contract, scheduling cover, general discussions about workload and availability.
Yeah, misunderstanding your PTO balance. Or, worse, miscommunicating your request for leave. That can lead to real friction. Or even losing pay if you get it wrong.
Absolutely. And you mentioned an anecdote earlier about vague communication causing problems. I think that illustrates the cost perfectly here.
Oh, it really does. I had this colleague years ago who just told his manager he was taking a break for a bit to deal with something personal.
Vague,
Very vague. And the manager, used to pretty informal office vibe, just assumed he meant like he'd be out for the afternoon, maybe a day max.
Okay.
So when the colleague didn't show up for a really critical team meeting 2 days later, the manager was absolutely furious. Thought he'd just gone AWOL.
Oh, no.
All that stress, bad feeling, lost productivity. Just because the clear standard phrase like, I need to take time off from the 5th to the 7th, wasn't used.
The language completely failed to set the right expectation. Using that formal framework, have time off, take time off, ensures everyone understands it's a formal request for authorized absence. It triggers the right procedures, lets people plan around it.
And if we connect the clarity of this phrase to just like general well-being, it seems even more important.
How do you mean?
Well, knowing how to professionally ask for a break, understanding your rights to that break, and being able to communicate that need clearly, that's actually a really essential skill for surviving modern professional life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It ensures you get the rest you need without causing chaos for everyone else or damaging your own standing.
Yeah, clarity about your work-life balance really does start with clarity in the language you use to manage it.
Okay. And with that, I think we've pretty thoroughly navigated these 4 essential pillars of high utility phrasing.
Feels like we covered good ground. Hashtag Deltro.
Yeah, we really covered a huge amount of conversational territory today, just by zeroing in on 4 specific structural phrases, these real fluency accelerators.
We did. We started with that polite way to ask for directions, focusing on the path. The process unpacking the power of embedded questions. And can you tell me how to get to somewhere?
Yeah.
How that structure gets you much better instructions.
Then we dove into the language of commitment, of foresight, with the concessionary power of even if it rains, really emphasizing that it's used specifically for showing determination against those hypothetical or future obstacles.
Right. And we tackled complexity, those tough dilemmas, using the incredibly concise definition of the no-win situation, detailing how that idiom helps you categorize problems quickly, moving from just diagnosis to thinking about mitigation.
Yeah, shifting to strategy. And finally, we got practical with the necessity of rest and clear communication around scheduling, nailing down the difference between have time off, the status or entitlement, and take time off, the action, and why that's so crucial in the professional world.
And ultimately, the big takeaway is that fluency. It's not just about how many words you know, is it? It's really about the efficiency and the sophistication of your sentence structures.
Right.
Mastering these kinds of high-frequency, high-utility phrases lets you use these linguistic shortcuts. You communicate complex ideas efficiently, respecting everyone's time. You're basically signaling, hey, I know the advanced frameworks for having this kind of discussion.
So, as you, our listener, go back into your daily conversations, we want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Think about your schedule, your goals for this coming week. We've given you the tools now to ask for directions clearly, to state your commitments firmly, to define your biggest challenges accurately, and to request rest professionally. So the question is, what is the single most important action you are committed to taking this week, even if it requires significant extra effort? And how will you use these structural phrases we talked about to articulate that goal clearly and concisely to the people around you?
Find your path, speak your resolve clearly, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.